Victoria Chase ripped the badge from Marcus Reed's chest so hard the lanyard snapped. 15 years. 15 years of crawling through ducts, fixing pipes at midnight, keeping this tower alive, and she tore it away like it was trash. His 8-year-old daughter stood frozen in the doorway, watching her father be stripped of everything. "Get out," Victoria said. "Both of you." 22 minutes later, the building went dark. The billion-dollar deal collapsed. The backup generators failed. And the only man who could save Meridian Tower was walking down 42nd Street with a little girl who wouldn't stop crying. He should have kept walking. He didn't. Drop your city below. I want to see where this story reaches tonight. Victoria Chase ripped the badge from his chest. The lanyard snapped. The plastic cracked against her palm. And Marcus Reed, 15 years of service, 4 military tours, single father, to an 8-year-old girl, stood there and let her do it. "You think you can just walk into my executive lounge?" Victoria's voice cut through the room like broken glass. "You think the rules don't apply to you?" The HVAC failed on floors 15 through 22. Marcus kept his voice level. "This is the only room with working air. I needed to cool down before I passed out." "I don't care if you were dying." She threw the badge on the floor. "You're maintenance. You don't belong here. You never belonged here." Behind her, 3 security guards shifted uncomfortably. They knew Marcus. Everyone knew Marcus. He was the guy you called at 2 a.m. when the boiler exploded. The guy who remembered your kid's birthday. The guy who'd once carried a heart attack victim down 18 flights of stairs when the elevators jammed. None of them moved to help him. "Ms. Chase," one of them started. "Did I ask you to speak?" Silence. Victoria turned back to Marcus. Her eyes were cold, calculating the eyes of a woman who'd clawed her way to the top of a Fortune 500 company by the age of 32. She didn't see a man standing in front of her. She saw a problem. An obstacle. Something to be removed. 15 years, Marcus said quietly. "What?" "I've worked in this building for 15 years. I know every pipe, every wire, every crack in the foundation. I've kept this place running through 3 blackouts, 2 floods, and a fire that should have taken the whole East Wing. And you're throwing me out because I needed 5 minutes to catch my breath." Victoria stepped closer. Close enough that he could smell her perfume, expensive, sharp. Nothing like the industrial cleaner that lived in his pores. "Let me make something clear," she said. "I don't care how long you've been here. I don't care what you think you've done. You are replaceable. Everyone in this building is replaceable. The only thing that matters is results, and right now the only result I see is a janitor who forgot his place." Marcus felt something twist in his gut. Not anger, he'd learned to bury that a long time ago. Something older, familiar. The same feeling he'd had when the army discharged him after his wife died. When the hospital bills ate through his savings. When he'd stood in line at the food bank praying Emma wouldn't notice, he was being erased. Again. "Daddy." The voice came from the doorway. Small. Scared. Emma stood there in her faded backpack, her hair escaping from its braid, her eyes locked on the badge lying broken on the floor. Marcus's heart stopped. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "Mrs. Patterson sent me. You forgot to sign my permission slip." Her voice trembled. "Daddy, why is your badge on the ground?" Victoria looked at the girl like she was an insect that had wandered into a boardroom. "Get her out of here," Victoria ordered. "Both of them, now." "Wait." Emma stepped forward, and something in her face shifted. The fear melted into something else, something harder. "You're the lady from the big office, the one with all the windows." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "And?" "My daddy talks about you sometimes. He says you work really hard. He says you never go home." For a fraction of a second so brief that Marcus almost missed it, Victoria's mask cracked. Her jaw tightened. Her fingers curled at her sides. "He also says," Emma continued, "that some people look at things, but they don't really see them. Like when the building makes noises at night and nobody listens except him. He says that's why things break, because people stop paying attention. Victoria stared at the little girl, 8 years old, messy hair, secondhand shoes, speaking truth that cut deeper than any boardroom attack. "Get them out," Victoria said again, but her voice had changed, quieter, colder, like she was trying to freeze something before it thawed. "Now." The elevator felt like a coffin. Marcus held Emma's hand as they descended. 34 floors, each one a year of his life he'd never get back. "Daddy," Emma's voice was small. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, sweetheart." He squeezed her hand. "You said something true. That's different." But she looked so mad. Sometimes the truth makes people mad, especially when they're not ready to hear it. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. And Marcus walked out of the building he'd given 15 years to, holding his daughter's hand with nothing but the clothes on his back and a broken badge in his pocket. He had $47 in his checking account. Rent was due in 6 days. Emma's school lunch balance was negative. The landlord had already slid 2 notices under his door. He was 53 years old, a widower, a veteran with a bad knee and no college degree, and he'd just been fired by a woman who'd never learned his name. "Dad." Emma tugged his sleeve as they stepped onto the sidewalk. "What are we going to do?" Marcus looked down at his daughter. She was trying so hard to be brave, trying so hard not to cry, just like she had at her mother's funeral 3 years ago when she'd held his hand through the whole service and never let go. "We're going to be okay," he said. The words tasted like ash. "We always are." Yeah. 22 minutes later, his phone rang. They were 2 blocks from the subway. Emma was humming something to herself the way she did when she was trying not to think about hard things. Marcus almost didn't answer, but he recognized the building's number. "Mr. Reed." The voice on the other end was panicked. Danny, the young security guard who'd stood silent while Victoria destroyed him. "Mr. Reed, you need to come back, right now." "I don't work there anymore." "The building's dead. Everything. Lights, elevators, backup systems, all of it. The Hartley Wells people are stuck between floors, and Ms. Chase has her big signing in 20 minutes, and nobody knows what to do, and—" "Not my problem." "Marcus, please." Danny's voice cracked. "There are people trapped in those elevators. Old people, scared people, and the fire department can't get here for another 30 minutes because there's a pileup on the bridge." Marcus stopped walking. Emma looked up at him, confused. "The HVAC failure," Marcus said slowly. "The new projector they installed in the executive lounge. It overloaded the main breaker, didn't it? How did you? And the backup generators aren't kicking because nobody ever replaced the capacitor I flagged in my report 8 months ago. The one that got rejected because it wasn't in the budget." Silence on the other end. "That about right?" Marcus asked. "Yeah," Danny whispered. "That's exactly right." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about Victoria Chase ripping the badge from his chest. The look in her eyes like he was nothing. Less than nothing. He thought about the $47 in his account. The rent due in 6 days. The job interviews he'd have to sit through at his age with no reference from his last employer. He should walk away. Let them figure it out themselves. Let Victoria Chase learn what happened when you threw away the people who actually kept the world running. But then he thought about the old people trapped in those elevators, scared, alone, wondering if anyone was coming. He thought about Maria in accounting, who always saved him a cookie from the break room. About Danny, who was 23 and just trying to do right. About the night janitors who depended on him to fix the heater before winter hit. They didn't choose this. "Daddy." Emma was watching him, reading him the way she always did. "You're going back, aren't you?" Marcus looked at his daughter, this fierce, stubborn, too smart little girl who'd already lost so much. "Yeah," he said, "I am." Even though she was mean. Even though. Emma nodded slowly like she was working something out in her head. "Okay, But I'm coming with you. Emma, you said we're a team. Her chin lifted. Teams don't split up. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to tell her to wait at the McDonald's on the corner where it was safe and warm and far away from Victoria Chase. But Emma's eyes were locked on his. Steady, certain, just like her mother's used to be. All right, he said. Let's go. The lobby was chaos. Emergency lights cast everything in blood red. People huddled in corners, some crying, some shouting into dead phones. Security guards moved through the crowd, trying to maintain order, failing badly. Marcus pushed through the confusion, Emma's hand locked in his. He moved with purpose, with direction, like a man who knew exactly where he was going. Because he did. Marcus! Danny appeared from the crowd face, slick with sweat. Thank God. It's bad. Really bad. I know. Marcus was already heading toward the service corridor. The main junction's in the sub-basement. If I can reroute power from the emergency grid, I can get the elevators moving. But the failsafe? Forget the failsafe. The failsafe's dead. I need to bypass it manually. Danny jogged to keep up. Can you do that? Guess we'll find out. They reached the service elevator, the old one, the manual one that nobody used anymore, because it was slow and creaky and smelled like motor oil. Marcus pulled open the gate and stepped inside. Stay here, he told Emma. No. Emma, I'm not leaving you. Her eyes were fierce, stubborn. Not ever. Marcus looked at his daughter for a long moment. Then he reached out and pulled her inside. Hold on tight, he said, and don't touch anything. The sub-basement was a maze of shadows and pipes. Marcus moved through it like a man walking through his own bloodstream. He'd spent more hours down here than he could count, knew every valve, every junction, every quirk of the aging infrastructure. The building talked to him. It always had. He could hear it now, the wheeze of dying pumps, the groan of overloaded circuits, the desperate hum of systems trying to stay alive. There. He pointed to a junction box in the corner. The surge blew the main breaker, and because the backup capacitors shot, the generators can't jumpstart the grid. Can you fix it? Emma asked. Maybe, but I need to reroute power from the emergency reserves. That means bypassing about 6 different safety protocols that exist for very good reasons. Will it be dangerous? Marcus looked at his daughter. Her face was pale in the dim light. Her hands were trembling, but she wasn't running. Yeah, he said honestly. It might be. Emma nodded. Okay. Okay. You've done dangerous things before. In the army. Mom told me stories. She took a shaky breath. She said you always came back. Always. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I'll come back, he said. I promise. He went to work. His hands moved from memory, testing connections, tracing faults, coaxing the old systems back to life the way he'd done 100 times before. The junction box was hot. The wiring was frayed. Every time he touched a connection, sparks jumped and danced. One wrong move and he'd fry himself. But Marcus didn't stop, didn't hesitate. Because somewhere above him, people were trapped in the dark, scared, waiting for someone to save them. And Victoria Chase was about to lose everything. What the hell is taking so long? Victoria paced the executive lounge like a caged tiger. The emergency lights painted her face in crimson. Her phone was dead. Her laptop was dead. Her billion-dollar deal was dying. The Hartley Wells people are still trapped. Her operations manager reported. Fire department's 15 minutes out, maybe longer. And our backup systems. Still offline. Nobody knows why. Victoria spun around. Then find someone who does. Ms. Chase. Her security chief stepped forward, hesitant. There's something you should know. What? Marcus Reed. He came back. He's in the sub-basement right now trying to restore power." Victoria stopped. Her whole body went rigid. "You called him. Danny did. He was the only one who—" "I fired him. I personally fired him. I threw his badge on the ground in front of his child. And you called him back." The security chief didn't answer. He didn't need to. The accusation in Victoria's voice was really aimed at herself. She'd humiliated the man, degraded him, and now he was the only thing standing between her and complete ruin. "Ma'am." Her operations manager's voice was tight. "If he doesn't get those systems back online in the next 10 minutes, the Hartley Wells partners are walking. And once they walk, the whole deal collapses. We'll be the laughingstock of every business publication in the country." Victoria closed her eyes. She thought about Marcus Reed, the look on his face when she'd ripped away his badge, the quiet dignity in his voice when he'd told her 15 years of service didn't mean a thing, the way his daughter had looked at her with eyes that saw straight through the armor. Some people look at things, but they don't really see them. Victoria's hands were shaking. She didn't know why. "Come on," she muttered under her breath. "Come on, you stubborn bastard. Fix it." In the darkness of the sub-basement, Marcus made his final connection. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. And the building roared back to life. The pumps hummed. The circuits sang. The emergency grid handed off to the main power with a clunk that echoed through the walls like a heartbeat restarting. Marcus slumped against the junction box, sweat dripping down his face. "Daddy!" Emma threw her arms around him. "You did it!" He held her tight. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding, but she was safe. The building was alive. And somewhere above him, people were stepping out of elevators, blinking in the light, wondering who had saved them. They would never know his name. "Come on, sweetheart," Marcus said, pulling himself to his feet. "Let's go home." Victoria was waiting at the service elevator when the doors opened. She stood alone. No security, no assistance, just her in her $1,000 heels and her perfectly tailored suit looking at the man she'd tried to destroy. Marcus stepped out, Emma behind him. For a long moment, nobody spoke. "You fixed it," Victoria said finally. "I did." "Why?" Marcus looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, he saw something beneath the armor. Something tired. Something broken. "Because this building has a heartbeat," he said. "And I wasn't going to let it die. Not even for you." Victoria's jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened. "I was wrong," she said. The words came out rough, like they'd been scraped from somewhere deep inside her. "About you. About everything." Marcus didn't respond. He just took Emma's hand and started toward the lobby. "Wait," Victoria's voice cracked. "Please." He stopped. "I don't know how to do this," she said. Her composure was crumbling now. The mask was falling away. "I don't know how to apologize. I've never been good at seeing people. Not really. Not the way you do." Marcus turned back to face her. "Why not?" he asked quietly. Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. For a moment, she looked like a lost child trying to find her way home. "Because," she whispered, "the last time I let myself see someone, really see them, they died, and I couldn't save them." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus didn't ask who she meant, didn't push. He just stood there, holding his daughter's hand, and let the silence do what words couldn't. "Go home, Ms. Chase," he said finally. "Get some rest. The building's stable for now, but you'll need a full crew in here tomorrow." "What about you?" Marcus smiled. It was tired, sad, but real. "I'll figure it out. I always do." He and Emma walked toward the exit. The lobby was clearing now. People were laughing, hugging, relieved. None of them looked at the man in the worn work clothes or the little girl in the second-hand shoes. They never did. The next morning, Marcus found an envelope under his door. He almost threw it away. Probably another eviction notice, another bill, another reminder of everything he didn't have. But Emma grabbed it first. "Daddy, look." She pointed at the handwriting on the front. "It says your name." Marcus opened it. Inside was a formal letter. His termination confirmed. 2 weeks severance. Standard HR language that said nothing at all. But beneath the typed words, someone had written a note in blue ink. "I watched the security footage. I saw what you did. I saw how you did it. We need to talk. VC." At the bottom of the envelope, there was something else. A check. Marcus stared at the number. His hands started shaking. "Daddy." Emma tugged his sleeve. "What is it? Is it bad?" Marcus looked at his daughter, then back at the check, then at the note in Victoria Chase's handwriting. "No, sweetheart," he said slowly. "I don't think it's bad at all." His phone buzzed, unknown number, but he recognized the prefix. He answered, "Mr. Reed." Victoria's voice was different now, softer, almost nervous. "I hope I'm not calling too early." "It's 7 a.m. "I know, I haven't slept." She paused. "I've been watching the security footage from last night. All of it. The sub-basement, the junction box, the way you talked to your daughter while you worked." Marcus said nothing. "You told her you'd come back," Victoria continued. "You promised her. And then you did something that could have killed you without hesitation. Not for money, not for recognition, just because people needed help. Is there a point to this call, Ms. Chase?" "Yes." She took a breath. "I need someone like you, not as a janitor, not as maintenance, as something else, something I don't even have a name for yet." Marcus looked at Emma, who was eating cereal at the kitchen table, watching him with curious eyes. "I'm listening," he said. "There's a problem inside my company. Something I can't see. Someone I trusted. I think they're trying to destroy everything I've built. And I need someone who knows how to look at things. Really look. Someone who listens when everyone else is too busy talking." Marcus walked to the window. The morning sun was just starting to touch the city. Somewhere out there, Meridian Tower was waking up, beginning another day. "And what makes you think I'd help you?" he asked. "After everything you did." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "Because you came back," she said finally. "When you had every reason not to, you came back anyway." Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about the $47, the overdue rent, the negative lunch balance. He thought about Emma eating her cereal, trusting him to make it okay. He thought about Victoria Chase, the look in her eyes when she'd mentioned someone dying, the crack in her armor she couldn't quite hide. "There's a coffee shop on 53rd and Lexington," he said. "Meet me there at noon. Come alone." "I'll be there." He hung up. Emma looked up from her cereal. "Was that the mean lady?" "Yeah." "What did she want?" Marcus tucked the check into his pocket. "I think she wants me to save her again." Emma considered this for a moment. Then she shrugged and went back to her cereal. "You're good at that," she said matter-of-factly. "Saving people." Marcus smiled. "Let's hope so, sweetheart. Let's hope so." The coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso and broken promises. Marcus arrived 20 minutes early. Old habit. The kind you pick up when your life depends on knowing every exit before someone walks through the door. He chose a table in the back corner. Clear sightline to the entrance. Wall behind him. 2 exits, front door and service entrance through the kitchen. He counted the customers. 12. Mostly professionals killing time between meetings. None of them looked twice at the man in the worn jacket and work boots. Good. At 11:47, Victoria Chase walked in. She looked different than she had at Meridian Tower. Smaller somehow. She wore jeans and a simple gray sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No heels, no armor. Just a woman trying very hard not to look like a CEO. She spotted him immediately and crossed the room with quick, nervous steps. "You're early," she said. "So are you." She slid into the chair across from him. Her hands were shaking. She noticed him noticing and shoved them under the table. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You're paying me to be here. That check you sent, that's 3 months of rent. It's what you were owed. 15 years of service. The severance they gave you was insulting." Marcus studied her face. The dark circles under her eyes. The tension in her jaw. The way she kept glancing toward the door like she expected someone to walk through it. "You said someone's trying to destroy your company," he said. "Start there." Victoria took a breath. 6 months ago, we started noticing irregularities. Small things at first. Shipments delayed. Research data corrupted. Key employees leaving without explanation. Corporate sabotage. That's what I thought, but then it got personal. She pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. 3 weeks ago, someone sent this to every board member. Marcus looked at the screen. Financial records, bank statements, transaction histories, all of them linked to offshore accounts with Victoria's name on them. "These are fake," Victoria said. "I've never seen these accounts in my life, but they're good fakes, good enough that the board launched an internal investigation." "You're being framed." "Yes. And whoever's doing it knows everything. My schedule, my passwords, my private meetings. They know things that only someone very close to me could know." Marcus set the phone down. "You have a suspect." It wasn't a question. Victoria's face tightened. "I have a fear. That's different." "Tell me." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Her name is Helena Vance. She's been my executive assistant for 8 years. She was with me before I became CEO, before I was anyone. She's the only person in the world who has access to everything: my calendar, my emails, my personal files." "And you think she's betraying you?" "I don't want to think that." Victoria's voice cracked. "She held my hand at my father's funeral. She brought me soup when I forgot to eat for 3 days straight. She's the closest thing to family I have." Marcus leaned back. But 3 months ago, she started acting different, distant, nervous. She takes calls in private now, leaves early. And last week I found her in my office at 2 a.m. She said she was looking for a file. But my computer was open, and I never leave my computer open. "Did you confront her?" "No." Victoria shook her head. "Because if I'm wrong, I destroy the only real relationship I have left. And if I'm right..." She trailed off. "If I'm right, then everything I thought I knew about people is a lie." Marcus understood that fear. The fear of looking at someone you loved and seeing a stranger looking back. "Why me?" he asked. "You have security, lawyers, private investigators. Why bring in a janitor?" Victoria met his eyes. "Because you see things. You said it yourself, you listen when nobody else does. You knew exactly what was wrong with my building when a team of engineers couldn't figure it out. You looked at my daughter and saw that she was scared before I did." She leaned forward. "I don't need someone who can read a spreadsheet. I need someone who can read people, and everyone I've met in the last 10 years has been trying to sell me something, use me for something, take something from me. But you..." She shook her head. "You came back to save a building full of people who never knew your name. You did it for nothing. That's not something you can fake." Marcus was quiet. "I'll pay you," Victoria continued. "Whatever you want. Name your price." "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" Marcus thought about Emma. The negative lunch balance. The permission slips he couldn't afford to sign. The future he couldn't give her on $47 and broken promises. "Benefits," he said. "Health insurance, dental. The kind that covers everything without asking questions." Victoria blinked. "That's it?" "My daughter needs braces, and I haven't been to a doctor in 6 years because I couldn't afford the copay." Something shifted in Victoria's face. A crack in the wall she'd built around herself. "Done," she said. "What else?" "Flexible hours. I pick up Emma from school at 3:15. That's non-negotiable." "Understood. And one more thing." Marcus leaned forward. If I find out Helena is innocent, you don't fire her. You don't punish her. You apologize and you mean it. Victoria's jaw tightened. And if she's guilty, then I'll handle it. My way. For a long moment, Victoria just looked at him. Then slowly she extended her hand across the table. We have a deal, Mr. Reed. Marcus shook it. Her grip was stronger than he expected. Call me Marcus. Then call me Victoria. She almost smiled. Nobody does anymore. The first week was observation. Victoria gave Marcus a badge, a real one this time, with clearance that let him move through the building like a ghost. He came in early, stayed late, watched everything. Helena Vance was exactly what Victoria had described: professional, efficient, devoted. She anticipated Victoria's needs before Victoria knew she had them. She remembered everyone's birthday. She knew which board members took their coffee black and which ones were secretly in AA. She was perfect. Too perfect. Marcus noticed it on the third day. The way Helena's eyes tracked Victoria's movements, not with loyalty, but with calculation. The way her smile never quite reached her eyes when she thought no one was watching. The way she always positioned herself between Victoria and the door. He'd seen that behavior before, in combat, in men who were planning something and waiting for the right moment. On Friday, he followed her. Helena left the office at 6:47 p.m. early for her. She walked 3 blocks to a parking garage, drove to the Upper East Side, and parked outside a brownstone that definitely didn't match her salary. Marcus watched from across the street as she went inside. 20 minutes later, she came out with a man. Gray suit. Silver watch. The kind of face that looked like it had never been punched, but deserved to be. They talked for 4 minutes. Helena handed him a USB drive. The man handed her an envelope. Then they went separate directions, like they'd never met at all. Marcus pulled out his phone and took pictures of everything. That night, he showed them to Victoria. She sat in her home office, a converted bedroom in her penthouse that looked more like a bunker than a workspace, and stared at the photos without speaking. The man is Raymond Cross, Marcus said. Executive VP at Hartley Wells. Your competitors. Victoria's face went pale. Hartley Wells tried to buy us out last year. I turned them down. Looks like they found another way in. And Helena, Victoria's voice broke. 8 years. 8 years, and she's been... We don't know how long. Could be recent. Could be from the beginning. Victoria looked up at him. Her eyes were wet. How did I not see this? You trusted her. That's not a weakness. It feels like one. Marcus pulled a chair over and sat across from her. Not as an employee, not as a consultant, just as someone who understood what it felt like to be betrayed by the people you loved most. When my wife was dying, he said quietly, I missed the signs. She'd been sick for months, tired all the time, losing weight, complaining about stomach pain. I told her it was stress. Told her to take it easy. By the time we got to the hospital, the cancer had spread everywhere. Victoria looked at him. Marcus? The doctors said even if we'd caught it earlier, it might not have mattered. But I'll never know for sure. And I've spent every day since wondering if I could have saved her. If I'd just been paying attention. He leaned forward. You're not stupid, Victoria. You're not weak. You just made the mistake of believing that someone who held your hand at a funeral was incapable of stabbing you in the back. That's human. That's normal. The only people who don't make that mistake are the ones who never trust anyone at all. Victoria wiped her eyes. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. It's supposed to make you angry. Her head snapped up. What? Helena didn't just betray you. She weaponized your trust. She used your father's death, your loneliness, your need for connection. She used all of it against you. And if you let yourself collapse into grief right now, she wins. Marcus stood. So grieve later. Right now I need you to get mad. I need you to focus. Because we're going to take her down, but only if you're ready to fight. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then something shifted in her face. The tears dried, the jaw set. The CEO came back. "What do you need?" she asked. Access to her personnel file, her phone records, and a list of everyone she's met with in the last 6 months. Done. And one more thing. Marcus hesitated. "Your daughter, Sophie, where is she right now?" Victoria's face went rigid. "At home, with the nanny. Why?" "Because if Helena's working with Hartley Wells, this isn't just about money. It's about leverage, and the best leverage against a mother." Victoria shot to her feet. "No, don't even say it. I'm not saying they're planning anything. I'm saying we need to be careful. Sophie is off limits. She's completely off limits. Then let me protect her." Marcus held up his hands. "Not full time. Just let me keep an eye on things. Let me know where she is, who she's with. I have a daughter too. I know what it feels like to wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if she's safe." Victoria's breathing was ragged. The CEO armor had cracked again. Underneath was just a mother. Terrified. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, just please, please don't let anything happen to her." "I won't," Marcus said. "That's a promise." 2 weeks passed. Marcus built a case, slowly, methodically. The way you disarm a bomb one wire at a time, knowing that one wrong move could blow everything apart. Helena was good. She covered her tracks with the precision of someone who'd been doing this for years. But she wasn't perfect. Nobody was. He found the cracks. A payment she'd forgotten to delete. A meeting she'd logged under the wrong name. A text message she'd sent from her work phone instead of her burner. The evidence was mounting, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Meanwhile, something else was happening. Something Marcus hadn't expected. Emma and Sophie became friends. It started by accident. Marcus had picked up Emma from school and was heading to Meridian Tower when Victoria called in a panic. Sophie's nanny had quit without notice. Victoria was stuck in a board meeting. She had no one else to call. "I'll get her," Marcus said. "You don't have to. I'm already out. Give me the address." Sophie was 9 years old, a year older than Emma, with dark hair and serious eyes, and a way of looking at people like she was trying to figure out if they were worth trusting. She reminded Marcus of her mother. "You're the janitor," Sophie said when she climbed into his car. "Used to be. Mom said you saved the building." "Just fix the lights." Sophie studied him in the rearview mirror. "She also said you were kind. That's not something she usually says about people." Marcus didn't know how to respond to that. He just drove. When they got to Meridian Tower, Emma was waiting in his office, a small room on the operations floor that had become his unofficial headquarters. She looked up when Sophie walked in. For a moment, the two girls just stared at each other. Then Emma smiled. "Want to see my drawings?" Sophie shrugged. "Okay." By the time Victoria finished her meeting, the girls were sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by crayons and paper, arguing about whether dragons could beat dinosaurs in a fight. "Dragons have fire," Emma insisted. "But dinosaurs are real," Sophie countered. "Real always beats made up. My dad's real, and he beats made-up stuff all the time." Sophie considered this. "What does that mean?" "It means he fixes things that people think can't be fixed. He made a building come back to life. He's like a wizard but for pipes." Victoria appeared in the doorway. She watched her daughter laughing with the janitor's kid, and something in her face softened. "Thank you," she said quietly to Marcus. "Just doing my job." "No." She shook her head. "This is more than that. Sophie doesn't... She doesn't laugh like that. Not with anyone." Marcus watched the girls. They're good for each other. Emma needs a friend who isn't afraid of hard things. And Sophie needs someone who doesn't see her as a CEO's daughter. "Yeah." Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Do you want to stay for dinner?" Marcus looked at her. What? I was going to order something. For me and Sophie. But if you and Emma want to join us. She looked almost nervous, like she was asking a question that had more weight than she wanted to admit. Marcus thought about saying no. About keeping the boundaries clear. Employee and employer. Nothing more. But Emma was laughing. Really laughing. The way she used to before her mother died. Sure, he said. We'll stay. They ordered Chinese food and ate it in Victoria's office because the conference room felt too formal and neither of them wanted to stop the girls from playing. Victoria watched Marcus help Emma with her chopsticks. Watched the patience in his hands, the gentleness. You're good with her, she said. She's easy to be good with. That's not true. Kids are complicated. Sophie's complicated. Victoria picked at her low mane. She hasn't been the same since her father left. Marcus looked up. I didn't know you were married. Divorced. 4 years ago. He decided he wanted a simpler life. A younger wife. A fresh start somewhere that didn't remind him of his failures. Her voice was bitter. He calls Sophie once a month if she's lucky. Sends checks when he remembers. She pretends it doesn't hurt. Does it? Everything hurts when you're a kid. You just learn to hide it better as you get older. Marcus thought about Emma. The way she held it together at her mother's funeral. The way she never asked for things she knew he couldn't afford. Yeah, he said. I guess you do. They sat in comfortable silence while the girls played. The city hummed outside the windows. For a few hours, there were no board meetings. No betrayals. No billion-dollar deals hanging in the balance. Just two broken people trying to protect the ones they loved. Later, after Marcus had carried a sleeping Emma to the car, Victoria walked him to the lobby. Same time tomorrow? She asked. Yeah, I've got a lead on one of Helena's offshore contacts. Should have something solid by end of week. Victoria nodded, but she didn't move toward the elevator. She just stood there, arms crossed, looking at him like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. What? Marcus asked. I was just thinking. She shook her head. Stupid thought. Tell me anyway. Victoria took a breath. I was thinking that I've known you for 3 weeks, and in that time you've done more for me for Sophie than most people have done in years. You've been kind without wanting anything, honest without being cruel, and I keep waiting for the catch. There's no catch. That's what scares me. She looked at him with eyes that had seen too many lies. Because everyone has a catch, Marcus. Everyone wants something. He stepped closer. Not threatening, not aggressive, just present. What I want, he said slowly, is for my daughter to grow up in a world where people like you don't have to be afraid all the time. Where trust isn't a weakness. Where doing the right thing actually matters. He shrugged. That's it. That's the catch. Victoria stared at him. And for just a moment, so brief he almost missed it. Her armor fell away completely. Underneath was something raw. Something real. Nobody talks like that anymore, she whispered. Maybe that's the problem. She almost smiled. Almost. Good night, Marcus. Good night, Victoria. He walked out into the night, Emma sleeping against his shoulder, and didn't look back. But he felt her watching him until the doors closed. The break came 3 weeks later. Marcus was in his office reviewing security footage when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Reed. Mr. Reed. The voice was unfamiliar. Female. Cold. I think we should talk. Who is this? Someone who knows what you're looking for, and someone who can give it to you for a price. Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm listening. Helena Vance is a means to an end. She's not the mastermind. She's the puppet. And the person pulling her strings is much closer to Victoria than you think. Then tell me who. Meet me tomorrow night, 9 p.m., the old warehouse on Pier 47. Come alone and I'll give you everything you need. The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone. Every instinct he had was screaming trap. The isolated location, the anonymous caller, the promise of easy answers. But if there was even a chance she was telling the truth? He made a decision. That night he told Victoria about the call, showed her the number, laid out the risks. "It's too dangerous," she said immediately. "You can't go alone." "I'm not asking for permission." "Marcus, if there's someone else involved, someone inside your circle, we need to know. And this might be our only chance to find out." Victoria's face was tight with fear. "Then let me send security with you. Let me—" "No." Marcus shook his head. "She said come alone. If I show up with backup, she disappears. We lose the lead. And if it's a trap," Marcus smiled grimly, "then I guess you'll need to find a new janitor." Victoria grabbed his arm. Her grip was fierce. "Don't joke about that," she said. "Don't you dare joke about that." He looked at her, really looked. And what he saw surprised him. Fear. Not for her company, not for her reputation, for him. "I'll be careful," he said softly. "That's not good enough. It's all I've got." She didn't let go. Her eyes were searching his face, looking for something she couldn't name. "If something happens to you," she said, "Emma loses her father. Sophie loses the only person who's made her smile in months. And I—" She stopped. "You what?" Marcus asked. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. "I lose the only person who's ever seen me. Really seen me. And I can't." She shook her head. "I can't do this alone, Marcus. Not anymore." He covered her hand with his, gently, carefully, like he was holding something precious. "You're not alone," he said. "And you won't be. I promise." She looked at him with eyes that wanted to believe, but didn't know how. "I'm going to hold you to that," she said. "I'm counting on it." The night before the meeting, Marcus sat on Emma's bed and watched her sleep. She looked so peaceful, so unaware of the danger circling around them. He'd spent his whole life trying to protect her from the darkness in the world, and now he was about to walk straight into it. "Daddy?" Her voice was sleepy, confused. "Hey, sweetheart, go back to sleep." "Are you okay?" She rubbed her eyes. "You look worried." Marcus smiled. "Just thinking." "About what?" He was quiet for a moment. "About how much I love you, and how there's nothing in this world I wouldn't do to keep you safe." Emma reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were so small, so trusting. "I know, Daddy," she said. "You're the strongest person I know. You always come back." He squeezed her hand. "Yeah, I do." "Promise?" "Promise." She smiled sleepily and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was breathing deep and slow. Marcus sat there for a long time, holding his daughter's hand in the darkness. Tomorrow, he would walk into the unknown. Tonight, he held on to the only thing that mattered. Pier 47 smelled like rust and salt water and bad decisions. Marcus arrived at 8:43, early again. He walked the perimeter twice, checking exits, counting shadows, listening to the silence. The warehouse was old, abandoned for at least a decade, if the broken windows and graffiti were any indication. No cars in the lot. No movement behind the shattered glass. He didn't like it. But he was here now. No point in turning back. At 8:56, headlights swept across the lot. A black sedan pulled up. Expensive. Tinted windows. The kind of car that belonged in a corporate garage, not a forgotten dock. The door opened. A woman stepped out, mid-40s, sharp features, gray blazer over black slacks. She moved with the confidence of someone who was used to being in control. "Mr. Reed." Her voice echoed across the empty lot. "Thank you for coming." Marcus stayed where he was. "You have a name?" "You can call me Catherine." That your real name? Does it matter? Marcus studied her face. No nervousness, no fear. She wasn't a messenger, she was a player. You said you had information, he said. Talk. Catherine smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Helena Vance has been feeding information to Hartley Wells for 3 years, but she's not doing it for money. She's doing it because someone promised her something she wanted more than cash. What? Victoria's job. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Helena wants to be CEO. Helena believes she deserves to be CEO. She was there before Victoria. She did the work, made the sacrifices. And then Victoria waltzed in younger, prettier, better connected, and took everything Helena had been building toward. So, this is revenge. This is justice. At least that's how Helena sees it. Catherine took a step closer. But here's what Helena doesn't know. The people she's working with, they don't plan to make her CEO. They plan to destroy Meridian completely. And once the company falls, Helena becomes a liability. A loose end. Marcus processed this. You're saying she's being played. I'm saying everyone is being played, including you. What's that supposed to mean? Catherine's smile faded. You think Victoria Chase hired you because you're good at reading people? She hired you because you're disposable. A janitor with no connections, no power, no one who would miss him if he disappeared. You're the perfect fall guy. Marcus didn't flinch. Keep talking. When this is over, when Helena is exposed and Hartley Wells backs off, Victoria will need someone to blame for how long it took. Someone who missed the signs. Someone who failed to protect her. Catherine tilted her head. Who do you think that will be? You don't know her. I know women like her. I've worked with them my entire career. They use people, Marcus. They chew them up and spit them out. And they never ever take responsibility for their own failures. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The wind off the water was cold, sharp. It cut through his jacket like a blade. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because I was Helena once. Loyal, devoted, willing to do anything for someone who didn't deserve it. And when I finally opened my eyes, it was almost too late. So what do you want? Catherine reached into her blazer and pulled out a USB drive. This contains everything. Bank records, communications, the full paper trail linking Helena to Hartley Wells. It also contains proof that Victoria knew about the vulnerabilities in her company's security for months and did nothing. Marcus didn't take the drive. Why would you give this to me? Because I want you to understand what you're dealing with. Victoria Chase isn't some innocent victim caught in a corporate conspiracy. She's a woman who built her empire on the backs of people she considered beneath her. People like you. People like me. And Helena. Helena made her choice. She'll face the consequences. But Victoria should face them too. Catherine held out the drive. Take it. Use it. Or don't. But don't say I didn't warn you. Marcus looked at the drive. Then at Catherine. Then at the darkness surrounding them. Something wasn't right. Who sent you? He asked. Catherine's expression flickered. Just for a second. But Marcus caught it. I told you. I'm someone who knows what you're looking for. That's not what I asked. He took a step back. Who sent you? Silence. And then from somewhere behind the warehouse the sound of footsteps. Multiple. Heavy. Moving fast. Marcus didn't wait. He was running before his brain caught up with his body. Instinct took over, the same instinct that had kept him alive through 4 tours in Afghanistan. He cut left away from the footsteps toward the chain-link fence at the edge of the lot. Stop him! Catherine's voice rang out. More footsteps. Closer now. At least 3 men, maybe 4. Marcus hit the fence and climbed. His bad knee screamed in protest. He ignored it. Adrenaline was a hell of a painkiller. He dropped to the other side and kept running. Behind him, someone was cursing. Someone else was on a phone calling for backup. He didn't look back. 3 blocks later, he ducked into an alley and pressed himself against the wall, breathing hard. His phone buzzed. Victoria. He answered. Marcus. Are you okay? I've been trying to reach you for an hour. I'm fine. He was wheezing. Change of plans. The meeting was a setup. What? They tried to grab me. I got out. But listen to me, whatever's happening, it's bigger than Helena. There are people involved that we don't know about yet. Where are you? Doesn't matter. What matters is Sophie. Where is she right now? Home. With the security team. Why? Keep her there. Don't let her go anywhere. Don't let anyone you don't trust within 100 feet of her. Marcus, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. He took a breath. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't move until I get there. He hung up and started running again. Victoria was pacing when he arrived. She'd sent the security team to sweep the building twice. Sophie was in her room, confused and frightened, asking questions that Victoria couldn't answer. The moment Marcus walked through the door, Victoria crossed the room and grabbed his shoulders. What the hell happened? He told her. Everything. Catherine, the USB drive, the ambush, the warning about being disposable. Victoria's face went pale. She said I was using you. She said a lot of things. Most of it was probably designed to turn me against you. But you're not sure. Marcus looked at her. Really looked. The fear in her eyes was real. The concern was real. He'd spent his whole life reading people, and everything in him said that Victoria Chase, for all her flaws, was not the monster Catherine had described. I'm sure, he said. Victoria's breath caught. How can you be? Because you came to me. Not the other way around. Because when your building went dark and your whole life was on the line, you called back the janitor you'd just humiliated. Because you let your daughter play with mine. Because you asked me to stay for dinner. He shook his head. People who use other people don't do that. They don't take risks. They don't show vulnerability. And they definitely don't let their guards down around someone who has nothing to offer them. Victoria's eyes glistened. I don't know how to... You don't have to say anything. Marcus put his hands on her shoulders. Steady. Grounding. Right now we need to focus. Someone set that trap tonight. Someone who knew I was investigating Helena. Someone who wanted to either grab me or scare me off. Who? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. That night, Marcus didn't sleep. He went through everything. Every file, every record, every piece of evidence he'd gathered over the past month. And then he went through it again, looking for connections he'd missed. At 3 a.m. he found it. A name buried in Helena's phone records. A number she'd called 12 times in the past 2 weeks. The calls were short, never more than 90 seconds, but they were consistent, regular. Marcus traced the number to a burner phone. Dead end. But the burner had been purchased at a convenience store in Brooklyn, and that store had security cameras. At 6 a.m., Marcus was at the store showing his badge, the real one, the one Victoria had given him, and asking to see the footage. The clerk was suspicious at first, but $100 and a story about a missing daughter changed his mind. Marcus watched 3 hours of footage before he found it. A woman, mid-40s, sharp features, gray blazer. Catherine. But she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her at the counter. Tall, silver watch, the kind of face that looked like it had never been punched. Raymond Cross, the Hartley Wells executive. Marcus had his connection. He called Victoria. I know who Catherine is, he said, and I know who she's working for. Who? Raymond Cross. He's running the whole thing. Helena, the fake accounts, the setup at the pier, all of it traces back to him. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Raymond was my father's protege. He worked at Meridian for 15 years before he left for Hartley Wells. Then he knows your systems, your weaknesses, everything. He knows me. Victoria's voice was hollow. He was at my father's funeral. He gave the eulogy. Marcus felt the weight of that settle over him. Another betrayal. Another person she'd trusted who had turned out to be poison. "I'm sorry," he said. "Don't be. Just stop him." "I will, but I need your help." "What do you need?" "A trap. Something that will force Helena to make a move. Something that will bring Raymond out of the shadows." Victoria was quiet, thinking. "The board meeting," she said finally. "It's in 3 days. I'm supposed to present our quarterly projections. If Helena thinks that's her chance to expose me, she'll move, and Raymond will be watching. But if we're wrong, if she doesn't take the bait, then we'll find another way. But right now, this is our best shot." Victoria took a breath. "Okay. What do you need me to do?" "Act normal. Go to your meetings. Smile at Helena. Pretend you don't know anything." "I don't know if I can do that." "You can. You've been doing it your whole life." The silence stretched between them. "That's not a compliment," Victoria said quietly. "No, it's not. But right now, it's what's going to save your company." The next 3 days were the longest of Marcus's life. He watched. He waited. He prepared. He moved Emma and Sophie to a safe house outside the city, a cabin near Lake Forest that belonged to a veteran buddy who owed him a favor. The girls didn't understand why they had to leave, but they trusted their fathers. Both of them. "Is something bad happening?" Emma asked when Marcus tucked her into the unfamiliar bed. "Something complicated is happening," he said. "But I'm going to fix it." "Like you fixed the building?" "Something like that." She looked at him with those big brown eyes. "Are you scared?" Marcus thought about lying, about telling her everything was fine, that there was nothing to worry about, that the world was safe and good, and people didn't hurt each other for money and power. But he'd never lied to his daughter. He wasn't going to start now. "A little," he admitted. "But that's okay. Being scared just means you care about what happens." "What happens if you don't fix it?" "Then I'll find another way. I always do." Emma reached out and took his hand. "Mom used to say that. She said you never gave up, even when things were really hard." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Your mom was smarter than me." "She also said you were the best person she ever knew." Emma squeezed his hand. "I think she was right." Marcus leaned down and kissed her forehead. "I love you, sweetheart." "I love you too, Daddy. Come back soon." "I will. I promise." The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:47, Marcus took his position in the security center, a small room on the operations floor, with feeds from every camera in the building. He had 3 monitors running, tracking every entrance, every exit, every hallway that led to the boardroom. Victoria was already seated at the conference table reviewing her notes. She looked calm, professional. Every inch the CEO. Only Marcus knew about the tremor in her hands that morning. The way she'd gripped her coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Helena sat 3 chairs to Victoria's left. Tablet open. Stylus ready. The perfect assistant. Marcus watched her face on the monitor. Looking for cracks. Looking for tells. At 2:03 the meeting began. Victoria presented the quarterly projections. Revenue was up. Market share was expanding. Everything looked perfect. At 2:17 her phone buzzed. Victoria glanced at it. Her expression didn't change, but Marcus saw her shoulders tighten. "If you'll excuse me for just a moment," she said to the board. "I need to take this." She stepped out of the room. Marcus watched Helena. The moment Victoria left, something shifted. Helena's fingers moved across her tablet faster, more urgent. She was typing something. Then she stood. "I need to use the restroom," she announced to no one in particular. She walked out of the boardroom and turned left toward the executive offices, not the restroom. Marcus was already moving. He caught up to her in the hallway outside Victoria's office. She had her hand on the door. "Helena," she froze. "Going somewhere?" Helena turned slowly. Her face was a mask of confusion. "Mr. Reed, I forgot something in Victoria's office. A file." What file? Quarterly reports. She asked me to grab them earlier. The quarterly reports are in the boardroom. I watched you pull them up on your tablet 10 minutes ago. Helena's mask cracked. Just for a second. But it was enough. I don't know what you're implying, she said. I'm not implying anything. Marcus stepped closer. I'm telling you that I know Helena. I know about Raymond Cross. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the USB drive you've been using to copy Victoria's files. Her face went white. I have no idea what you're talking about. Then you won't mind if I check your bag. Helena's hand moved toward her purse. Instinctive. Protective. That's what I thought. Marcus pulled out his phone. I have security on standby. Federal agents too. You can either come with me quietly, or we can do this the hard way. Helena's eyes darted left, right, looking for an escape. There wasn't one. You don't understand, she said. Her voice was shaking now. You don't understand what she did to me. Then tell me. I gave her everything. Helena's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her face. 15 years, I built this company. I was here when it was nothing, when her father was running it into the ground. I saved it. I made it profitable. And when he died, I finally thought, you thought you'd take over. I deserve to take over. Helena's voice rose to a scream. But then she came back, his precious daughter, the one who'd been off playing socialite while I was working 18-hour days. And suddenly I was invisible again, a secretary, an assistant, someone to fetch coffee and manage calendars while she took credit for everything I built. Marcus watched her fall apart. Part of him understood. Part of him had felt that same rage, the fury of being overlooked, undervalued, erased. But understanding wasn't the same as excusing. So you sold her out, he said. I took what I was owed. Raymond promised me. Raymond lied to you. Marcus's voice was cold. He doesn't want you to be CEO. He wants Meridian destroyed. And once that happens, you become a problem. A witness. Someone who knows too much. Helena's face contorted. That's not true. I have proof. Bank records, communications, the whole trail. You were never going to get what you wanted, Helena. You were just a tool, and tools get thrown away when they're no longer useful. For a long moment, Helena just stood there, broken, defeated. Then her hand moved. The gun came from nowhere, small silver hidden in her purse. She raised it with shaking hands and pointed it at Marcus's chest. You're lying, she whispered. You're trying to trick me. Marcus didn't move. Put the gun down, Helena. I can't go to prison. I can't, I won't. You don't have to shoot anyone. Just put the gun down and we'll talk. There's nothing to talk about. She was sobbing now. The gun trembled in her grip. It's over. Everything is over. It's not over. Marcus took a slow step forward. You made mistakes, bad ones. But you can still do the right thing. You can help us take down Raymond. You can tell the truth. The truth doesn't matter. It never mattered. It matters to me. Another step. And it matters to the people you hurt. Victoria trusted you. She loved you. And yeah, maybe she didn't see you the way you wanted to be seen. But that doesn't justify this. That doesn't justify any of this. Helena's hand was shaking so badly the gun was almost bouncing. I just wanted to matter, she whispered. I just wanted someone to see me. I see you, Helena. Marcus was close now, close enough to touch the barrel. I see a woman who worked her whole life for something and never got the recognition she deserved. I see someone who made a terrible choice because she was hurt and angry and alone. He reached out slowly, gently. But I also see someone who can still make this right. It's not too late. It's never too late. Helena looked at him. Her eyes were red, hollow. And then slowly her hand lowered. Marcus took the gun, eased it from her grip, held her as she collapsed against him, sobbing. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. I know, Marcus said quietly. I know. The federal agents arrived 20 minutes later. They took Helena into custody, gently at Marcus's insistence. She didn't resist, didn't fight, just walked between them with empty eyes and slumped shoulders. Raymond Cross was arrested that evening at his office in the Hartley Wells building. The evidence Marcus had gathered was enough for multiple indictments: fraud, corporate espionage, conspiracy. Victoria watched the news coverage from her office. Marcus stood beside her. 8 years, she said softly. 8 years, and I never knew. Nobody did. I should have. I should have paid attention. I should have... Her voice broke. She was my friend Marcus, the only real friend I had. Marcus didn't have words for that. Some wounds didn't heal with words. He just stood there, present, solid, letting her grieve. After a long silence, Victoria spoke again. What happens now? Now you rebuild, clean, transparent, the way it should have been from the beginning. And you, Marcus looked at her. What do you mean? I mean... She turned to face him. This is over. Helena's gone. Raymond's in custody. You did what I hired you to do. You're asking if I'm leaving. I'm asking if you want to. Marcus thought about it. The job was done. The crisis was over. He could walk away right now, take Emma back to their apartment, find another maintenance job, go back to being invisible. But something had changed over the past month, something he hadn't expected. No, he said. I don't want to leave. Victoria's eyes glistened. Why not? Because you still need someone who sees you, really sees you. He shrugged. And because my daughter has finally found a friend. I'm not going to take that away from her. Victoria almost smiled. That's it. Those are your reasons. Those are the reasons I'm willing to say out loud. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city hummed outside the windows. The building breathed around them. Then Victoria reached out and took his hand. Stay, she said. Please. Marcus looked at their intertwined fingers. Her grip was warm, certain. Okay, he said. And for the first time in a very long time, he meant it. The weeks after Helena's arrest were the hardest Victoria had ever faced. The press coverage was relentless. Every news outlet in the country wanted a piece of the story: the corporate betrayal, the insider conspiracy, the dramatic takedown. Victoria's face was on magazine covers, cable news segments, podcast episodes dissecting her leadership style and whether she'd survive the scandal. She didn't read any of it. Marcus had told her not to. The people who matter already know the truth, he'd said. Everyone else is just entertainment. She believed him. She was starting to believe a lot of things he said. The board demanded a press conference. 3 days after Raymond Cross's arrest, Victoria stood behind a podium in Meridian's lobby, facing a wall of cameras and microphones and hungry faces, waiting for her to crumble. She didn't crumble. I made mistakes, she said, her voice steady. I trusted the wrong people. I failed to see warning signs that were right in front of me. And because of those failures, my company and the people who work here were put at risk. She paused. The reporters leaned forward. But I also did something right. When everything fell apart, I reached out to someone I'd wronged, someone I'd dismissed, someone I'd treated as disposable. And that person, against all logic, against all reason, came back and helped me save everything I'd nearly destroyed. She looked toward the back of the room. Marcus stood there, arms crossed, face unreadable. Emma was beside him, holding his hand, watching with wide eyes. His name is Marcus Reed, Victoria continued. 6 weeks ago, I fired him because I didn't see his value. Today, he's the reason I'm still standing here. And I want everyone to know, everyone in this room and everyone watching, that the greatest strength isn't in titles or power or money. It's in the people who show up when you need them most, even when you don't deserve it. The room erupted with questions. Victoria answered them calmly, honestly, without deflection. For the first time in her career, she wasn't performing. She was just telling the truth. Afterward, she found Marcus in the hallway. "That was quite a speech," he said. "I meant every word." "I know you did," he smiled. "That's what made it good." Sophie appeared from around the corner, dragging Emma by the hand. "Mom, can Emma come over for dinner tonight? Please, we're working on a project and we really need to finish it." Victoria looked at Marcus. "What do you think?" "I think I could eat." Sophie cheered. Emma grinned. And for a moment, standing there in the hallway of her company after the worst month of her life, Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Dinner became a regular thing. At first it was once a week, then twice. Then somehow Marcus and Emma were at Victoria's penthouse more often than they were at their own apartment. Victoria learned things about Marcus that surprised her. He could cook, really cook, not just heat things up. He'd learned in the army, he said, because the mess hall food was terrible, and the guys in his unit would trade anything for a home-cooked meal. "You made pasta in Afghanistan?" Emma asked one night, incredulous. "Made pasta bread, even tried to make a cake once. That one didn't go so well." "What happened?" "Let's just say the medic thought someone had been attacked. There was flour everywhere. Looked like a crime scene." The girls laughed. Victoria laughed too. It felt strange, the sound of happiness in a space that had been silent for so long. After dinner, the girls retreated to Sophie's room to work on their project, a graphic novel about two sisters who fought crime with their magical pets. Marcus helped Victoria with the dishes. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I know. I have people who do this." "I know that too." But he kept washing. She kept drying. Their shoulders touched in the narrow space of the kitchen, and neither of them moved away. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Depends on what it is." "That night at the pier, when Catherine tried to turn you against me, what she said about me using you, about you being disposable." Victoria hesitated. "Did you believe her, even for a second?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. He set down the dish he was washing and turned to face her. "For about 3 seconds," he admitted. "And then I thought about the way you looked at me when your building came back to life. The way you asked me to stay for dinner that first time. The way you watch Sophie when she's laughing with Emma. And I realized that people who use other people don't look like that. They don't care about things that don't serve them. They don't risk vulnerability." He shrugged. "You're a lot of things, Victoria. Stubborn, proud, sometimes arrogant as hell. But you're not fake, and that's worth more than most people realize." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "I don't know how to respond to that." "You don't have to respond. You just have to hear it." She looked at him, really looked. The lines around his eyes, the gray at his temples, the steadiness in his gaze that made her feel anchored in a way she'd never experienced before. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of what?" "Of this. Of feeling things I don't know how to control. Of letting someone in and watching them leave." She took a shaky breath. "Everyone leaves, Marcus. My father died. My husband walked away. Helena betrayed me. I've spent my whole life building walls because every time I let them down I get hurt." Marcus reached out and took her hand. His grip was warm, certain. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "You don't know that." "Yeah, I do." He squeezed her fingers. "Because I've already lost everything once. My wife, my career, my sense of purpose. And then I rebuilt piece by piece, day by day. I learned that the only thing that matters is showing up, being present, choosing to stay even when it's hard." He lifted her hand to his chest. She could feel his heartbeat steady, strong. "I choose to stay, Victoria, not because you're rich or powerful or because you can give me something I need, but because for the first time in a very long time, I've found someone worth staying for." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She didn't try to hide them. "I don't know how to do this," she said. I don't know how to trust, how to be vulnerable, how to let someone see me without the armor. Neither do I. Marcus smiled gently. But we can figure it out together. She stood there for a long moment, holding his hand against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart. Then she leaned in and kissed him. It was soft, gentle, uncertain. The kind of kiss that asked a question instead of making a demand. When she pulled back, Marcus was looking at her with something in his eyes she couldn't name. "Okay?" he said quietly. "Okay what?" "Okay. I think we're going to be all right." The girls found out about the kiss 3 days later. Sophie caught them holding hands in the kitchen. She stood in the doorway, mouth hanging open, then turned and ran to find Emma. They were holding hands. Sophie whispered loud enough for half the building to hear. Like romantic holding hands. Emma considered this information carefully. Does that mean we're going to be sisters? I don't know. Maybe. Do you want to be sisters? I already kind of felt like we were. Sophie grinned. Me too. That night, the girls cornered their parents at dinner. So, Sophie said with the confidence of a seasoned prosecutor. Are you two like together now? Victoria choked on her water. Marcus calmly set down his fork. That's a complicated question, Victoria said. No, it isn't. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact. Either you like each other or you don't. Do you like each other? Marcus looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at Marcus. Yes, they said simultaneously. The girls exchanged glances, the kind of glance that contained an entire conversation in the span of 2 seconds. Good, Sophie said. Because we already planned our room situation. Your what? At the new house, when we all move in together. Sophie pulled out a piece of paper covered in crayon drawings. Emma gets the room next to mine. We share the bathroom in the middle. There's a balcony that connects both rooms so we can visit each other at night without walking through the hallway. Victoria's mouth opened. Nothing came out. We also need a dog, Emma added. A big one. Sophie wants a golden retriever, but I think we should get a German shepherd because they're good at protecting people. And we need a backyard, Sophie continued, for the dog and for camping. Daddy. She stopped, eyes going wide. I mean, Marcus said. The room went very quiet. Sophie looked at Marcus with sudden fear, like she'd broken something precious. Marcus set down his napkin. What did you want to call me, Sophie? Her voice was tiny. I was going to ask if it was okay if I called you. If maybe I could. Daddy. Sophie nodded, tears forming in her eyes. My real dad doesn't. He never calls. He doesn't come to anything. And you're always here and you help with homework and you make breakfast and you taught me how to ride a bike and... Marcus was out of his chair before she finished the sentence. He crossed to her side of the table and knelt beside her. Sophie, look at me. She looked. You can call me whatever you want to call me. Dad, Marcus, hey you. It doesn't matter what word you use. What matters is that I'm going to be here. Every day. For homework and breakfast and bike rides and everything else. You understand? Sophie nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. But I need you to understand something else, Marcus continued. I didn't choose to be Emma's father. That was biology. But if you let me, I'm choosing to be yours. That's different. That's not an accident. That's a decision. And I don't make decisions like that lightly. He opened his arms. Sophie threw herself into them. Across the table, Emma was already crying. Victoria wasn't far behind. This is the weirdest family dinner ever, Emma said through her tears. I know, Victoria managed. I love it. The changes came slowly at first, then all at once. Marcus officially moved out of his apartment. The landlord was relieved he'd been 3 months behind on rent before Victoria's first check arrived, and the building had been looking for an excuse to renovate anyway. They found a house in Westchester. Not a mansion Victoria had offered, but Marcus had refused. "I don't need 20 rooms I'll never use," he'd said. "I need a home. Those are different things." The house had 4 bedrooms, a backyard big enough for a dog, and a kitchen where Marcus could cook Sunday dinners. The girls' rooms were exactly as Sophie had drawn them, side by side with a balcony that connected them. They got a dog, a German shepherd named Bear, after a compromise that took 3 family meetings to resolve. Bear slept at the foot of Emma's bed, but spent his days following Marcus around like a furry shadow. Victoria cut her hours at Meridian. Not dramatically, she was still the CEO, still responsible for thousands of employees, but enough. She was home for dinner most nights. She attended school plays and soccer games and the endless series of important ceremonies the girls invented to celebrate things like first day of spring and Bear learned to shake hands. Marcus took a new role at the company. Not janitor, not security, something without a title. Victoria called him her chief of seeing things. He walked the floors, talked to employees, listened to problems before they became crises. He knew everyone's name within a month. "You're too good at this," Victoria told him one night. "People are going to start thinking you're the real boss." "Maybe I am." She threw a pillow at him. But underneath the jokes, something real was growing. Not just between Marcus and Victoria, but around them. The employees at Meridian started to change. The culture shifted. People smiled more, complained less, started staying because they wanted to, not because they had to. "What did you do to my company?" Victoria asked after a particularly positive quarterly review. "Nothing. I just treated people like they mattered." "Turns out that makes a difference." "That's not nothing." "You're right." Marcus shrugged. "It's everything." 6 months after Helena's arrest, Victoria resigned as CEO. The decision shocked everyone. The board, the press. Even Marcus hadn't seen it coming. "I need to explain something," Victoria said the night before the announcement. They were sitting on the back porch, watching the girls chase Bear around the yard. "I'm listening. When I took over Meridian, I did it because I thought I had something to prove. My father built that company. When he died, everyone said I couldn't handle it, that I was too young, too inexperienced, too female. So I made it my mission to prove them wrong." "And you did." "I did. But somewhere along the way, proving them wrong became more important than anything else. More important than my health, my relationships, my daughter." She looked at Sophie, laughing as Bear knocked her into the grass. "I missed her entire childhood, Marcus. I was so busy being CEO that I forgot to be her mother." Marcus waited. "I don't want to miss any more," Victoria said. "I don't want to look back in 10 years and realize I traded my life for a corner office and a stock price. I want to be here, present, real." "So you're walking away?" "I'm not walking away. I'm choosing something different. The board has approved a transition plan. I'll stay on as chair consult on major decisions. But the day-to-day, the 18-hour days, the constant crisis management, that's over." She turned to face him. "I want to build something new, something that matters, and I want to build it with you." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "What did you have in mind? You talk about seeing people all the time, about listening, about paying attention to the ones everyone else ignores." Victoria's eyes were shining. "What if we created something around that A program, a foundation, something that helps people who fall through the cracks? Single parents, veterans, kids who don't have anyone in their corner." Marcus thought about the shelters he'd slept in after his wife died, the food banks he'd stood in line at with Emma, the endless applications for jobs that never called back. "I know what it's like to be invisible," he said quietly. "To work hard and still have nothing. To watch your kid go hungry because the system wasn't built for people like you. So let's build something different," Victoria said. "Together." He smiled. "You know this won't be easy. Foundations take money, time, connections. It's not like running a company." "I know, but I have money and time and the most stubborn, capable, annoyingly insightful partner I've ever met." She reached out and took his hand. "What do you say?" Marcus looked at her, at the house behind them, at the girls and the dog and the life they'd built from the wreckage of everything they'd lost. "I say yes." The press conference announcing Victoria's resignation was held on a Tuesday. She stood at the same podium where she'd addressed the scandal 6 months earlier. Same cameras, same hungry faces, but everything else was different. "I'm not leaving because I failed," she said. "I'm leaving because I succeeded, and I realized that success means nothing if you don't have anyone to share it with." She talked about the foundation, about the programs they were planning, about Marcus standing in the back of the room again this time, with both girls at his side. "This man taught me something," Victoria said. "He taught me that the people who matter most are often the ones we overlook. The janitor who keeps the building running, the single parent working 2 jobs, the veteran who can't find his way back to civilian life. We see right past them because our culture tells us that power and status are what matter." She shook her head. "But it's not true. What matters is kindness. What matters is showing up. What matters is seeing people really seeing them, and letting yourself be seen in return." She looked at Marcus. He nodded. "I spent my whole life building walls," Victoria continued. "I thought they made me strong, but all they did was make me alone. And then someone came along who saw through every single one of them, and instead of using that knowledge against me, he helped me tear them down." Her voice cracked. "I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I'm better, softer, more human, and I have him to thank for that." The room was silent. No one moved. Then from somewhere in the back someone started clapping. Then another person. Then another. The applause built until it filled the room, washing over Victoria like a wave. She stepped away from the podium and walked toward the back of the room, toward Marcus, toward the girls. Sophie grabbed her hand. Emma grabbed Marcus's. They stood there together, 2 broken people who'd found their way back to life, and 2 little girls who'd made it possible. "That was embarrassing," Sophie whispered. "I know," Victoria said, "but it was true." "It was still embarrassing." Marcus laughed. "Get used to it, kid. Your mother's going to be embarrassing for a very long time." Victoria punched his shoulder. The girls giggled. Bear barked at something outside. And in that moment, surrounded by noise and chaos and love, Victoria understood something she'd spent her whole life running from. This was what it meant to be seen. This was what it meant to be home. A year passed like water through open fingers. The foundation launched in the spring. They called it Second Chance. Marcus's idea, though he'd denied it when Victoria gave him credit at the opening ceremony. "It's not about me," he'd said. "It's about everyone who's ever been told they don't matter." The first program focused on single parents, job training, childcare assistance, emergency housing for families on the edge of homelessness. Within 6 months, they'd helped over 200 families get back on their feet. The second program came from Emma. She'd been watching the news one night, something about veterans struggling to find work, when she turned to Marcus with that serious expression she got when she was about to say something important. "Daddy, those men were like you, right? They helped people in the war." "That's right. So why doesn't anyone help them now?" Marcus didn't have a good answer. Neither did Victoria. So they built one. The Veterans Program launched in the fall. It paired former service members with mentors who'd successfully transitioned to civilian life. It offered job placement, mental health services, and something Marcus insisted on personally, a monthly dinner where everyone sat together and talked. No agenda, no presentations, just people sharing stories and remembering they weren't alone. "You know what the hardest part of coming home was?" Marcus told the group at the first dinner. "It wasn't the nightmares, or the job hunting, or learning how to be a civilian again. It was feeling invisible. Like everything I'd done, everything I'd sacrificed, didn't matter to anyone." He looked around the table at the faces watching him. Men and women who'd served their country and come home to a world that didn't know what to do with them. "But it does matter," he continued. "You matter. And this place, this program exists because we refuse to let anyone forget that. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was desperate, grateful, the sound of people finally being seen. Victoria watched from the back of the room, tears streaming down her face. Later, after everyone had gone home, she found Marcus in the kitchen washing dishes by hand, even though there was a perfectly good dishwasher 3 feet away. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I know. There are people we pay to do that. I know that too." She leaned against the counter and watched him work. His sleeves were rolled up, soap bubbles clung to his forearms. He looked exactly like he had that first day in Meridian Tower, calm, steady, completely himself. "I love you," she said. Marcus set down the dish he was washing, turned to face her. Water dripped from his hands onto the floor. "What? I love you." Victoria smiled through her tears. "I've been trying to figure out how to say it for months. I kept waiting for the right moment, some perfect scene where the lighting was good and I had the right words. But there is no right moment. There's just now. And I don't want to waste any more time being afraid." Marcus dried his hands slowly, deliberately. Then he crossed to where she stood and cupped her face in his palms. "I've loved you since the night you crawled into a boiler room in a $1,000 dress to help me fix a pipe," he said. "I've loved you through board meetings and breakdowns and late-night conversations about nothing. I've loved you when you were strong and when you were scared and when you pretended to be okay, even though you weren't." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you, Victoria Chase, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it." She kissed him then. Not soft and uncertain like that first time in her kitchen. This kiss was fierce, certain, the kind of kiss that sealed promises. When they finally pulled apart, Victoria was laughing. "What?" Marcus asked. "I just realized something. A year ago, I fired you for drinking coffee in the wrong room. And now I'm standing in a community center we built together, telling you I love you while our daughters plan our wedding upstairs." Marcus blinked. "Our what?" "Oh, didn't I mention?" Victoria grinned. "Sophie and Emma have been planning it for 3 months. They have a color scheme, a guest list, and very strong opinions about the cake. We haven't even gotten engaged." "I know, I told them that." Sophie said, and I quote, "details." Marcus laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from somewhere deep. "I guess we're getting married then." "I guess we are." Victoria took his hand. "Unless you have objections." "Not a single one." The wedding was held in the backyard of their Westchester home on a Saturday in June. Sophie and Emma served as co-maids of honor, a title they'd invented and defended vigorously against anyone who suggested it wasn't traditional. Bear wore a bow tie and spent most of the ceremony trying to eat it. The guest list was small. Family, what little they had. Friends from the foundation. A handful of Meridian employees who'd become like family over the years. Danny, the security guard who'd called Marcus back on the night of the blackout, stood in the front row and cried the entire time. Marcus wore a simple gray suit. Victoria wore white, but not a gown. A simple dress that let her move, dance, breathe. She'd had enough of clothes that restricted her. They wrote their own vows. Victoria went first. "A year ago, I thought I knew what strength looked like. I thought it meant never showing weakness, never asking for help, never letting anyone see the parts of yourself that weren't perfect." She looked at Marcus standing across from her in the afternoon light. "I was wrong. Strength isn't armor. It's vulnerability. It's reaching out when you're drowning. It's admitting you don't have all the answers. It's letting someone see you, really see you, and trusting them not to look away." Her voice cracked. "You saw me, Marcus, at my worst, at my most broken. And instead of running, you stayed. You held me together when I couldn't hold myself. You taught me that being loved isn't about being perfect, it's about being present." She squeezed his hands. "I promise to see you back, every day, in your strength and your struggle and everything in between. I promise to show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I promise to build something with you, not a company or a foundation or a legacy, but a life, a real life, full of late-night conversations and Sunday dinners, and two girls who think we're embarrassing but love us anyway. She smiled through her tears. I promise to be your partner, your equal, your home, for as long as you'll have me. Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I'm not good with words. Never have been. I'm better with my hands fixing things, building things, making broken stuff work again. He looked at Victoria. But some things can't be fixed. Some things are just broken forever. And I spent a long time believing I was one of those things. After my wife died, after I lost everything, I thought the best I could hope for was survival. Just getting through each day without falling apart. He shook his head. Then I met you, and you were so frustrating, so stubborn, so convinced you knew everything when you didn't know anything at all. You fired me in front of my daughter. You made me feel invisible. A soft laugh rippled through the guests. But then you called me back. When everything was falling apart, you called me back. And that's when I realized something. You weren't the cold, untouchable CEO I thought you were. You were scared, and alone, and desperate for someone to see past the armor. Marcus reached up and touched her face. I saw you, Victoria, and what I saw was beautiful. Not perfect, never perfect, but real, honest, brave in ways you didn't even recognize. And I thought, this woman has been waiting her whole life for someone to show up for her. Really show up. Not for her money or her power or what she could give them, but just for her. His voice dropped. I'm showing up now. And I'm going to keep showing up, every single day, in the good times and the bad times and the boring times in between. I'm going to be here, present, steady, yours. He smiled. I promise to keep fixing things even when you insist they're not broken. I promise to make breakfast and walk the dog and pretend to lose at board games so the kids feel good about themselves. I promise to listen when you talk and hold you when you cry and tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it. He leaned in close. And I promise to love you, not the idea of you, not the CEO or the philanthropist or the woman the world sees. Just you, the real you, the one who's scared and stubborn and strong and soft all at the same time. He kissed her forehead. That's my promise, and I don't break my promises. The officiant, an old army chaplain Marcus had served with, cleared his throat. I think that covers it, he said. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. The kiss lasted long enough for Sophie to groan and Emma to start timing it on her watch. 14 seconds, Emma announced. New record. The reception was chaos in the best possible way. Sophie delivered a toast that started with, I wasn't sure about Marcus at first, and ended with, but now I can't imagine our family without him. Emma followed with a shorter speech that consisted mostly of, my dad is the best dad ever, and now he has more people to take care of, and that makes him happy, so I'm happy too. Marcus danced with both girls. Sophie first, then Emma, then both of them at once, spinning in a circle while Bear barked at their feet. Victoria watched from the edge of the dance floor, surrounded by well-wishers, but focused only on them. Her family. The one she'd almost missed because she was too busy building walls. You look happy. She turned. A woman she didn't recognize stood beside her mid-60s silver hair, kind eyes. I'm sorry, do we know each other? No, but I know your husband. The woman smiled. I'm Margaret. Marcus helped me last year when I lost my apartment. The foundation gave me a place to stay while I got back on my feet. He drove me to job interviews, helped me practice answers. When I got hired, he showed up with flowers. Victoria felt her throat tighten. I just wanted to tell you, Margaret continued, that what you're doing, what you've built, it matters. It matters more than you know. There are so many of us out there. People who fell through the cracks, people who gave up on themselves. And then someone like Marcus comes along and reminds us that we're worth saving. She squeezed Victoria's hand. Thank you for sharing him with us. Victoria couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Margaret smiled and disappeared into the crowd. The night ended around midnight. The girls had fallen asleep in lawn chairs, exhausted from dancing. Bear was snoring at Marcus's feet. The guests had gone home, leaving behind empty glasses and full hearts. Marcus and Victoria sat on the back porch, shoulders touching, watching the stars. "I keep waiting to wake up," Victoria said quietly. "What do you mean?" "This. All of this. You, the girls, the foundation tonight. It feels like a dream. Like at any moment I'm going to open my eyes and be back in my office alone, wondering why success feels so empty." Marcus took her hand. "It's not a dream." "How do you know?" "Because dreams don't have dirty dishes and mortgage payments and kids who leave their shoes in the middle of the hallway." He smiled. "This is real life. Messy and complicated and exhausting and beautiful." He turned to face her. "And I wouldn't trade it for anything." Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. "Me neither." They sat in silence for a long time. The world hummed around them, crickets and distant traffic, and the soft sound of their daughter's breathing. "You know what I realized," Marcus said eventually. "What?" "That night at Meridian Tower, when you fired me. I was so angry, so sure that my life was over, that I'd never recover from being humiliated like that." "I'm sorry." "Let me finish." He squeezed her hand. "I was wrong. That moment, the worst moment of my life, was actually the beginning of everything. If you hadn't fired me, I wouldn't have come back that night. I wouldn't have saved the building. You wouldn't have noticed me. We wouldn't be here." He shook his head. "Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are the doors to the best things we'll ever have. We just can't see it when we're in the middle of it." Victoria thought about that. About all the moments in her life that had felt like endings but were actually beginnings in disguise. Her father's death, her divorce, Helena's betrayal. Every one of them had led her here, to this porch, this man, this life. "I used to think I had to control everything," she said. "That if I let go for even a second, everything would fall apart. And now I think the falling apart was the point. You can't rebuild something better until you let the old version break." Marcus pulled her closer. "That's the smartest thing you've ever said." "I have my moments." They laughed together in the darkness. Not at anything in particular. Just at the absurdity and beauty and unexpectedness of life. The foundation grew. Within 3 years, Second Chance had programs in 12 cities. They'd helped thousands of families, trained hundreds of veterans, built partnerships with companies across the country who wanted to do more than write checks, who wanted to actually see the people they were helping. Victoria gave speeches about it sometimes. At conferences, at fundraisers, at schools where kids who reminded her of Emma and Sophie sat in the front row and asked questions that were too smart for their ages. But she always came home. That was the rule she'd made with herself. No matter how far the work took her, she came home. To Marcus. To the girls. To the life they'd built from the rubble of everything they'd lost. Sophie turned 16 on a rainy Thursday in September. They threw a party, small, just family, and a few friends. Sophie had requested a cake shaped like a book because she'd decided she wanted to be a writer. Emma, now 15, was convinced she was going to be a veterinarian. Bear had opinions about neither, but was happy to eat scraps from both plates. After the guests left, Sophie found Marcus in the garage, tinkering with an old radio he'd been trying to fix for months. "Can I talk to you?" Marcus set down his tools. "Always." Sophie sat on the workbench, legs dangling. She was tall now, almost as tall as Victoria. But something in her expression was still the scared little girl who'd asked if she could call him Daddy. "I've been thinking about my real dad," she said. Marcus nodded. "What about him?" "He called last week. First time in almost a year. He said he wanted to reconnect, start over, be part of my life again." Marcus kept his face neutral. How did that make you feel? Confused. Angry. A little hopeful, I guess. Sophie picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. And then I realized something. I was hoping he'd changed because I wanted him to be more like you. And that made me feel guilty, like I was betraying him by loving you more. Sophie. Let me finish. She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much for 16 years. You didn't have to love me. I wasn't yours. I was some other man's daughter, some man who left and didn't look back. You could have kept me at arm's length, been nice to me for Mom's sake, but never really let me in. Her voice cracked. But you didn't do that. You showed up. Every day. For homework and heartbreak and the stupid stuff that doesn't matter to anyone else. You taught me how to ride a bike and how to change a tire and how to tell when someone's lying. You held me when I cried about boys and didn't make me feel stupid for caring about things that weren't important. Tears streamed down her face. You're my dad, Marcus. Not because of biology. Because you chose to be. And I spent so long feeling guilty about loving you more than my real father that I never actually told you. She slid off the workbench and stood in front of him. I love you, Dad. And I'm grateful, every single day, for you. Marcus stood up. His eyes were wet. Come here, he said. She fell into his arms the way she had that first night in the dining room when she'd accidentally called him Daddy and been terrified he'd reject her. He held her tight. I love you too, Sophie. And I'm proud of you. So proud. Not because of your grades or your accomplishments or anything you've done. Just because of who you are. He pulled back and looked at her face. You're going to do amazing things. I know it. And I'm going to be there for every single one of them. That's a promise. Sophie smiled through her tears. You don't break your promises. No, Marcus said. I don't. On a Sunday morning in October, 5 years after the night Marcus first walked back into Meridian Tower, the family gathered for breakfast. It was nothing special. Pancakes and bacon and too much coffee. Bear begging for scraps under the table. Sophie texting her friends. Emma reading a veterinary textbook between bites. Normal. Ordinary. Perfect. Victoria looked around the table at the people she loved. The husband who saw her when no one else did. The daughters who'd taught her that family wasn't about blood, it was about choice. The dog who'd chewed through 3 pairs of her shoes and somehow become the most spoiled creature on the planet. This was what she'd been running from her whole life. This mess, this chaos, this overwhelming, terrifying, beautiful ordinariness. And now it was hers. What are you smiling about? Marcus asked. Nothing. Everything. She reached across the table and took his hand. Just thinking about how strange life is. How the worst day can become the first day. How the person you fire can become the person you marry. Are you getting philosophical on us? Sophie didn't look up from her phone. Because it's too early for philosophy. I'm not being philosophical. I'm being grateful. Emma looked up from her book. For what? Victoria thought about it. About all the things she could say. All the ways she could explain what this life meant to her. But in the end, she just said the truth. For you, all of you, for this house and this breakfast and this ordinary Sunday morning, for second chances and new beginnings and the people who show up when you need them most. She looked at Marcus. For being seen. Marcus smiled. That quiet, steady smile that had anchored her through every storm. You know what the funny thing is, he said. What? I spent my whole life trying to be invisible. Trying to do my job without being noticed. And then I met you and you noticed me anyway. Even when I didn't want you to. Was that bad? No. He squeezed her hand. That was the beginning of everything. Sophie groaned. You two are so cheesy. The cheesiest. Emma agreed. Bear barked. Marcus laughed. Victoria laughed. The girls rolled their eyes but smiled anyway. Outside, the sun was rising over the trees. The world was waking up. And inside this kitchen, surrounded by pancakes and chaos and love, a family held on to each other and refused to let go. Because that's what real strength looks like. Not walls or armor or the ability to stand alone. Real strength is reaching out, letting someone in, trusting that the people who see you, really see you, will stay. Marcus Reed learned that lesson in a boiler room with his hands covered in grease and his heart full of purpose. Victoria Chase learned it in a boardroom when everything she'd built came crashing down, and the only person who could save her was the man she'd tried to throw away. And their daughters learned it from watching them, from seeing two broken people choose each other day after day and build something beautiful from the pieces. That's the story, not of a janitor who saved a CEO, not of a billionaire who fell in love with a working man, but of two people who found each other in the darkness and decided to walk toward the light together. Some people look at things but don't really see them. But the ones who do, the ones who pay attention, who show up, who choose to stay, they're the ones who change everything. Marcus Reed was that kind of person. And because of him, Victoria Chase became one too. Not all heroes wear capes, or carry badges, or save the world in spectacular ways. Some of them carry mops. Some of them fix broken things. Some of them just show up day after day and refuse to let the people they love face the darkness alone. That's the only kind of hero that matters. And that's exactly who Marcus Reed turned out to be.